At the start of Shadow of War, we catch up with power couple Talion and Celebrimbor as they make their engagement ring in preparation to replace Sauron's evil orc-controlling regime with their own version of exactly that but with pride flags. You see, they're going to make a good ring. Man, why did no one else think of using a ring of power for good? To bring order to the chaos of Middle-earth. Good job these guys thought of it before some bad guys thought of it first. If you're unsure what's going on because you didn't play the first game or watch my video on it, here's a quick recap of everything that happened. No, me, my wife and child are dead at the hands of Sauron's minion. Don't worry, I'm also one of Sauron's minions, but you're alive and superpowered while I'm around. What about my family? Meh, you're my new best friend, I know. Let's kill Sauron. No, quick time event's my one weakness. Wanna make a new ring? Of course. Precious. Whoa. And back to Shadow of War. Shelob makes a quick appearance to say the world of men is ending. Weird sexism to start the game? Probably just jealous of Kelly and Talion's upcoming wedding. In fact, that's obviously the case, since she kidnaps Kelly to blackmail Talion into giving her the ring. Worth reiterating that this is non-canon, so if you want to point out that Shelley isn't supposed to have a human form, or that actually the type of masonry shown in the game is inconsistent with what's detailed in page 79 of the illustrated version of the Silmarillion, just know that none of this is real. I'm not saying they could get away with straying too far from the original lore, but give them some wiggle room. I'm sure they won't do something ridiculous later on like introduce ancient Chinese Nazguls. With Kelly gone, Talion starts dying and has a PTSD flashback of his wife being alive, which means he can't keep being Polly. But thankfully, she starts bleeding out, which brings Talion so much joy he gathers the strength to stop dying by picking up the new ring. Things seem to be going a bit to shit immediately. Who knew crafting a ring of power would come with a bunch of problems? But we have to keep moving. Talion climbs snowy mountains, moves through orc territory, and descends into dark caves to rescue his beloved symbiote. Shelley appears in her giant spider form as a show of force, then changes into her sexy lady form, which basically ends the fight before it begins. Talion tries to threaten her, but she doms him too hard. She does compliment him on being brave for a man, and with this, Talion is smitten and willing to do anything she says. Kelly isn't pleased by this, but Talion was willing to give up Princess Lily to be with him. He's ride or die for Kelly, so long as it's an open relationship. Shelley says she only deals in truth, so Talion agrees to give up the ring to free Kelly, despite his protests. I don't know enough about Lord of the Rings to know why he knew he could trust the saw trap making spider lady, but she frees Kelly, who then goes back to Talion before he dies. Eventually. Lets him think about what he's done first, giving up their engagement ring to someone who was already a powerful adversary. But Talion says they can just take it back. Out loud. In front of Shelley. The Black Widow tells us our fight isn't with her, which is inconvenient since we're already here, and tells us to go to Minas Ithil. Then she gives Talion a vision of the future, via a hug that he's going to remember for the rest of his unlife. This lets us know we must protect the Palantir apparently, and once we know this we quickly realise that Kelly is absolutely obsessed with getting this Palantir. We go to Minas Ithil and use our data harvesting technique to find out more about the orcs leading the charge, after which Talion has apparently decided to start exploding heads after gaining intel. We're the good guys. Whilst fighting our way through the orcs to get to the human vanguard, we meet Idril, the daughter of the general leading the stronghold. She steals our kill and says she's the only one left of her raiding party, but she survived because she's a girl boss. So we help each other reach the gate to the inner city before it closes. You know, I'm just gonna throw it out there, I'm in an open relationship, so if not interested, fair. Talion notes everything is playing out like Shelley's vision, and Kelly says if Sauron's forces get the Palantir, then all of Middle-earth will fall. Good job, we're definitely gonna get the Palantir. Rather than going through the gate, Talion takes the opportunity to show off in front of the new blonde lady by using his new glaive attack and committing horrific violence. It's a little tough since I put it on Nemesis difficulty, but thankfully the orcs still have the disadvantage of massive glowing contextual button prompts above their heads. Turns out Idril isn't paying attention because she's chatting with her dad, Castamere, who tells her to do her womanly duty and secure the relics in the Great Hall. She says fine, but she'll be back on the front lines afterwards. Yeah, you tell him. Fight the patriarchy, girl boss. Then Talion shows up and assures Castamere that he's a Black Ranger, despite clearly being white. So Castamere tells him to go terrorise the nearby orc captains to delay the siege and give them time. Instead, we decide to go into a burrow where Kelly's old warrior buddies are buried. On the way to the burrow, Ronk Blackblade appears and lets us know his blade has seen so much orc blood it turned black, and that's why he called it Blackblade. I don't know if he thinks I'm supposed to be impressed by that, but that's possibly the least creative name he could. Dammit, he killed me. Guess he's my true nemesis now. While in the burrows, Kelly wants to reminisce about the good old days when he forged and stole the One Ring and led an army against Sauron. So we'll humour him for a bit and pretend he didn't end up getting his ass handed to him. Oh yeah, Sauron totally betrayed you and you were totally innocent, and also you almost got him. Good job, buddy. But the new ring, oh that's what'll do it. This time for sure. It's not mad with his shadow and it's perfect and precious and wait. Having jerked ourselves off rather than killing orc captains, we catch up with Idril, who's getting a bit obsessive over saving all the relics. Her boyfriend Barrymore tells her sacrifices must be made. She tells him to shut up and do his job. Not a surprise, Barry's then pretty happy to meet Talion. He's heard all about the blood spilled by the magic mayonnaise man, and it's nice to put a name to a face. Talion asks about the Palantir again since Kelly won't shut up about it, but Idril says her father has put it away for safekeeping. Talion points out that there's no safekeeping from the orcs once they take the city, but Idril refuses to give up hope, says we will not surrender, and Minas Ithil will not fall. Then they all go outside to witness the fall of Minas Ithil. We go out of our way to hold the orcs back because Talion wants to save Gondor and Kelly wants to secure the Palantir. Talion makes note of their different motivations, but doesn't make a big deal about it. The power scaling seems to have gone a bit haywire since in the first game we had to team up with Torvin to take down the Grogs we're now soloing, but we can let that slide as the rule of cool. Having sabotaged the orc plans enough to keep them at bay for a bit, we return to the Great Hall to find Idril is upset over a bunch of broken relics, but then realises they're not what's truly precious. Bit of a quick turnaround. She also says that no mortal man can handle the Palantir. Talion says he's no mortal man and he can handle it, because he's just so damn cool to the point he acts like it's a burden. He says he may fail, but if not, they'll win this war. Thankfully, the orcs have been held back for a little bit, so we can go visit Shelley, because Kelly wants more info on the Palantir, and because Talion wants her to crush him. I mean because he has a crush on, because she might know a way to crush the orcs. We go back to find Shelley and see if she'd be so kind as to help us find out more about the Palantir, what with us being on friendly terms and everything, when a war troll appears. But everyone's favourite goofball appears to help us out. Gollum! Turns out Gollum has learnt from his attempt to murder Talion and has got himself an internship under the Spider Lady, so he'll be helping us out with some of the admin involved with Shelley's advice. Gollum's cameo appearances in these games will surely be looked back on fondly. Now that he's gonna be the big star of his own Lord of the Rings movie, they will surely be on par with the originals. God, it's great to be in the past where I can lie. Shelley says she's busy being CEO of doing whatever the fuck she wants, but Talion says she showed him one vision that freaked him out. The least she could do is give him another that will recover his mental health. So she shows him a vision of an assassin's blades, Idril screaming, and Talion being ganged upon by Nazguls, which, honestly, helpful. Not for our mental health, but for telling us where to go next. Talion says this knowledge means we can save Idril from being assassinated, but Kelly says if we put resources towards saving her, it could cost us the war. What we really need to do is protect Castamere, because if we lose him, we lose the goddamn Palantir. Gollum recognised the curved blades the assassin used in the vision. He also gets to see Shelley's visions as part of the intern privileges he receives rather than money, so he leads us towards him. We make quick work of killing them, with Gollum also getting in on the fun. Kelly says that's good, because now we can get the Palantir easily, which was all that mattered. He wants to make extra clear that saving a life was not a factor in being happy this was successful, just securing the Palantir. Talion finally calls him out by saying,
"How much of your soul was lost in that ring?"
Though the answer is fairly obvious. None. He was always like this. Talion's suddenly acting all high and mighty like he didn't kill thousands of orcs on his way to fail to kill Sauron in the previous game, but suddenly making tactical choices to secure vital weaponry and maximise lives saved over pushing resources to save one specific life is monstrous. They both understand that the machine of destruction must continue to run if they are to bring calm to the chaos that is Mordor, peace through war, success through overwhelming violent victory. You know, good guy shit. We meet up with Barry and his men to help them kill the bodyguard of the orc leading the siege of Minas Ithil. They bond over some dual assassinations. Talion helps reassure Barry his powers are thanks to a good spirit possessing him by exploding an orc's head, and easily take out the bodyguard. Barry and Talion's team up works well, but this won't be enough to end the siege. Knowing to kill war chiefs isn't good enough. It'll help, but Talion wants to learn more of the threats to Minas Ithil. Just needs to be 100% sure, and you know who could help with that? And so, Talion asks Shelley for more flash forwards. She knows this will be torment. He knows it too. This is satisfying both their fetishes, they just won't say it out loud. Shelley's vision gives us a clearer view of the war chief leading the siege of Minas Ithil, the city being hit by green fire, and Talion being tortured by the Nazgul. This vision doesn't help Talion's confidence, but Kelly reassures him that they can change the future. And yes, people will die, but they can change the future. Don't ask exactly what future he wants, just assume it's a good one. He also says Talion trusts Shelley too easily, which is true to be fair. He doesn't know it, but he should trust her because if you collect all the Web of Fate memories, you get a bonus cutscene showing she wants to take down Sauron because he broke up with her just as they were looking to be in a good place. Wow, the great deceiver deceived you? Consider my flabbergasted. We meet up with Barry to kill the war chief, after which Kelly mockingly says, "What did we even do?" Then he complains we should only be doing things to get his ring back, almost like he's obsessed with it, like it's taken over his mind, like some kind of wraith. Talion says this is about more than that. It's about more than him. It's about saving lives. And in order to save lives, I need to get more info. From Shelley. Shelley says Kelly and Sauron are one and the same. I wonder what that means. Kelly takes offence and says we shouldn't trust her riddles, but Talion is too horned up to listen.
Come, Talion.
And he does. This vision shows us that Minas Ithil has a traitor who's in contact with the war chief, so Gollum is going to show us where the war chief's messenger is. Once we track down the messenger, we're saved the trouble of killing him because he won't stop mentioning the traitor, which is against the Orcs' strict data protection laws, so he gets sliced in half. God, they're so cool, but not cool enough to stop us interrogating the war chief, who starts speaking in a different voice and then explodes. Talion says it's the Witch King, the leader of the Nazgul, taunting us. Kelly says they need to work on his ring again. Calm down. Talion says they will, but first they need to deal with the Minas Ithil traitor, and Gollum provides some comedic relief. Back at Minas Ithil, the orc numbers have swelled beyond count and they've gathered in the arena? Castamere is nowhere to be seen when an orc appears and shows Castamere's blade. The orc is being controlled by the Witch King and calls out Talion to come fight his champion or no balls. If his champion dies, they'll give Castamere back. Idril asks Talion to give them a spectacle to distract them so they can sneak into the orc's camp and find her father. Talion promises to put on a show, and so we get to the best part of the game by a wide margin when we actually get into the Colosseum and fight in front of a roaring crowd. The orcs are loving it. Doesn't matter if their champion, Arbenu the Suspicious, is winning or losing, they're here for the show. God, the orcs fucking rule. They know you gotta keep morale up in a siege, and so took this opportunity and dove right in. Arbenu puts up a good fight, and even defies death to keep going, but Talion inevitably kills him with a combo of sliding, riding and innumerable stab wounds. He realises he may have killed him too quickly though, and not given enough time for Idril to rescue her dad. So, Talion calls them out to bring forth the real champion. This fight is even managing to make Talion an interesting character. It's so campy and fun. This rules. The orcs rule. Just have the rest of the game be like this. They eventually bring out the real champion, Hawk the Deathless, who talks about all the times we fought back in Udun. This is the first time I remember meeting him, but I won't harsh the vibes by saying that. We're having fun here. The true champion fights valiantly, but he inevitably gets cleaved in half, my word. Talion wasn't lying about putting on a show. Even Kelly gets in on the action and ends it with a massive AoE flashbang.
Run to your master and give him this message! I come for him!
Amazing. Also, hope you enjoyed that, because T&K will never be that cool again. In fact, Kelly immediately goes back to whining about the Palantir. While we were putting Broadway to shame with our performance, Idril and her men managed to see that her father is being held in the war chief's camp, but they were spotted before they could attempt to rescue. Barry suggested they go back in the early hours with a small unit. Orcs will be sleeping, few men means less noise, and fewer chances to be spotted. Seems a good idea. Idril wants to go now, alone, because if she waits any longer, her dad will surely be killed. Talion says that's a suicide mission, but he can't die, so he's in. They bond over some dual assassinations and successfully sneak in so girl boss Idril can rescue boy boss Castamere, but not before he shows off how he can still kill an orc if needs be. We make it back to safety, and Castamere says don't use the Palantir for some reason. He's hidden it for safekeepings. It'll be fine. Gondor will come to our aid. It's been weeks, but surely they will come. Idril pulls a Karen and says she'll find it for Talion because she knows Gondor isn't going to come. Talion says we should go back to Shelley, because of course he does. Kelly is hesitant, but since it might mean finding out where the Palantir is, it satisfies both their hyperfixations, so he agrees. On the way, the previous champion of the arena, Hawk, returns. He wasn't called Hawk the Deathless for nothing. Losing his bottom half was merely a setback, and now he has become stronger than ever. Behold, Mecha Hawk. God, Sauron's healthcare system must be insane. Can't possibly collaborate with them and share each other's services and technology. We have to kill each other. Hawk doesn't even get a fancy death. He dies obscured in a bush. Senseless. Shelley wonders why they want to know where the Palantir is when it just offers sight over enemies, which is what she's already been giving them. She wonders what Talion will offer in exchange for another vision. He offers some of his soul, although there's not much left. Shelley realises he's willing to sacrifice everything, so lets him have a vision on the house since he's such a good customer. Turns out Castamere is the traitor. The ultimate Karen move. So that's where Idril gets it from. The vision also shows the Witch King riding a big dragon shooting green fire and Castamere giving the Witch King the Palantir, all of which later happens exactly as he saw, so good work preventing anything. Are these visions doing anything? Or are they visions of what will pass now that Talion has seen them? I don't think he cares. He's just in it for the pain. Back at Minas Ithil, having seen the vision means Talion is able to pull Barry to safety at least. So that's nice, but it's clear the city is lost, so Talion tells Barry to save his people while he heads to the Great Hall. Castamere says he did this to save Idril, that he'd give all of Gondor to save her, and that there's no honour in death. Then he gives up the Palantir and dishonourably dies. We arrive just in time to see Idril screaming in hysterical grief. Good job all round, everything is going as planned. Look at that sassy little walk the Witch King does. He knows he's done good, off to have the celebratory wank and a Kit Kat for this. We tell Idril to leave because we're about to take on 5 guys at once and we don't want any girls around to spoil the fun. Even for non-canon, it's a bit ridiculous that we actually managed to hold our own against this many Nazgul, but we can't take on the Witch King himself until a new blonde lady turns up, Eltariel, and she has a cloak, and a bubble shield, and she stabs us, green flags personified. She killed us so we couldn't be turned into a Nazgul. Unfortunately, Sauron still has the Palantir now, and he's coming for Shelley since he now knows she has the new ring. Ellie watches us come back to life and asks a lot of questions about it. Like if we feel pain, which, you know, valid questions, but maybe let us shake off the stabbing hangover, though we quickly snap out of it when she reveals she can see Kelly. She's an independent contractor working to defeat the Nazgul on behalf of Galadriel, and gets to borrow her powers. A potential ally? She's not exactly on our side since she thinks we're destined to become a Nazgul, though she seems to blame Kelly for that, whilst Talion is the well-meaning idiot being corrupted by him, which hey, gotta hand it to her, she catches on quick. Unfortunately, introducing another woman to the story runs the risk of it passing the Bechdel test, so Shelley has to die. Despite her already immense power in combination with the new ring, she dies of exhaustion after fighting off 6 Nazgul. Yet somehow we were able to hold off 5 with just Wraith powers, almost like they were holding back because they know we'll join them eventually after being corrupted by the power of the new ring. Maybe teaming up with the evil Wraith to make a ring of power was bad. Before dying, Shelley gives us one last vision of spoilers that go by too fast to spoil anything. We get the new ring back and reassure Ellie that we won't become corrupted by the ring. Sure, everyone else has always been corrupted by being arrogant enough to assume they're different, but we're different. We have an evil Wraith spirit with us. And so we're finally back to where we started in this story, except we're up 2 blonde ladies and a black guy. Bit of an awkward detour, but I'd say it was worth it. Shame to see Shelley go, since it means Gollum's internship is over too. But now we have the ring back, we can start mind-controlling orcs again. Something we forgot how to do without this ring despite doing it all the time in the first game. Now we just need to build up our orc army and start taking over fortresses to make our assault on Sauron. However, at this point the story splits into 4 sections that come together at the end. Bear with me because I'm going to try and go through them separately, so if things seem a bit out of order, that's because they kinda had to be. So first, we need to catch up with Idril and Barry to make sure they don't die. Hands on the ground, stop resisting. Oh god, Barry, my bad. Sorry for treating you like an orc. Glad to see you survived the fall of Minas Ithil. Did I mention I'm sorry about the chokeslam? Because I am. Barry tracked down Talion by following the trail of dead orcs. Oh, he's such a flirt. Idril also survived, but was captured alongside most of their men, with the others still being hunted by Sauron's forces. They know they won't survive in Mordor long, but Barry says they have a way out. We just need to rescue them first. Then Barry and Idril can live happily ever after. Barry, stop planting death flags for yourself. They reach the cave the captured men are being held in and take a break since Barry's sciatica is flaring up, and Talion tells them they must escape to the west and have a second chance at life. Talion, stop planting Barry death flags. Barry talks about how he's already lived 2 lives, having come from a faraway place as a child. He also says he was respected here. But now it's over, and the only life that matters to him is Idril's. Aww. And the hopeful music swells and we head into the cave to continue what will inevitably be a story with a tragic end. We defeat the orcs in the cave and rescue the hostages to find out that Idril is still alive and already escaped. She went to the fighting pits to rescue other hostages, so we go defeat most of the pit fighters and Idril runs in to kill Steele again. We get a nice reunion between her and Barry. Calm down. Barry wants to leave Mordor now, but Idril says no. There's others to save, and one of us hasn't tragically died yet, so they split up to rescue the rest of the captured men, with Talion somehow helping both of them at the same time. We catch up with Idril, who's planning to infiltrate a feast the orcs are holding, to celebrate plundering Minas Ithil, now renamed Minas Morgul. She wants to ruin the party by poisoning the grog barrels, Talion's favourite pastime. This makes it so we don't even have to take out the head orc of the feast ourselves. We release a Caragor that takes him out. We manage to take back some of the relics the orcs took. It's not much, but it gives Idril hope, and we got to poison some grog. So all in all, a good night out, except we didn't rescue anyone as she said we were going to, and also went after relics she earlier said weren't what was truly precious, so I guess that was a lie on top of a lie. Meanwhile, we catch up with Barry, who scouted around and found more of his men being held, so we go around killing orcs and setting them free. However, Barry gets taken captive by Golm Trophy Hunter. Surely this is where he dies. Nope. We shame Golm into running away, but Barry got taken to Gorgoroth, further delaying his inevitable demise. Kelly even jumps in to clarify that the camp Barry is being held in is for torture. Damn, he just can't catch a break. Sent to a foreign land, bossed around by his missus. In trying to rescue her, she tells him to go help others, then gets captured doing so. But not for long though, since we're able to mind control roughly every orc in the Gorgoroth camp and find Barry surprisingly alive. Sciatic, but alive. Idril says he was right, that staying in Mordor is certain doom, but she cannot leave. Barry says they'll be doomed together, when he's clearly the only one that will die. Or not? Hang on, that's the end of their story? Well, not entirely. Barry has a DLC adventure where he goes back to his original homeland, which kinda undercuts him saying he and Idril will be doomed together, but still. Oddly hopeful ending for them. Bit anticlimactic though, so please bring your own hype for the next side story with a non-canon forest god. Talion keeps hearing the voice of a new woman, Carnan, and can't handle it anymore, so ventures into the forest. Kelly keeps warning him that Carrie is no creature, she is nature itself. He should not be entering her forest, and if he insists on answering her call, he must be cautious. This only makes Talion hornier. Turns out Carrie takes the form of a tree beast. Kelly is freaked and tells Talion to kneel. He can't beat her. Her bark too tough, her accent too foreign, her claws too pointy. She'll kill you. But Talion is done with his sub-phase, so he and Carrie fight to let off some steam before the real fun can begin. Kelly begs Talion to stop this. They have a mission and she could provide invaluable assistance or destroy everything they're trying to do, so just be a good sub and kneel. Talion refuses to give up despite clearly being in over his head, before being dragged underground so he knows he ain't shit. Kelly tries to be diplomatic. Carrie isn't having any of it. Talion is too busy thinking about how he wants to climb her like a tree. She says their actions have awoken the Balrog Targaroth. Kelly insists they will help, and Carrie says of course they will, because she isn't asking. She's telling them they're gonna kill the Balrog. Then she tries to spookily go back into the shadows, but there's no shadows and we see her the whole time, so just pretend there's mist. Ooh, spooky. We go to Gorgoroth to prevent Targaroth the Balgoroth from being brought back to the surface by Zog the Eternal Roth, but obviously we fail, because then it wouldn't be interesting and we'd realise we're getting sidetracked to pad the game time with a made up character telling us what to do. Zog also gets away using disappearing magic, which is something some orcs can do apparently. With Tar still rising, we jump into the pit and see some more cultists summoning him, at which point Kelly says they're fools because no one can tame a Balrog, but doesn't mention a plan for us to survive this. Tar then makes wings and a whip out of fire and kills his summoners, which is the exact kind of short-sighted thinking that gets you into positions where you need to be summoned in the first place. Although it's also the kind of ruthlessness that gets you far in life. He's a real go-getter, with upper management written all over him. Talion's freaking out, but Carrie appears to help us, whilst making sure to reiterate that we fucked up by making the ring and causing this in the first place. Tar then jumps out of the lava to kill us, but Carrie is in grog form to help out, whilst we take pot shots and avoid debris. Tar flees to gain the higher ground, and Talion gets to mount Carrie like a tree. We then briefly play a kaiju fighting game which, frankly, not complaining, but definitely adds to this feeling like a superfluous side quest. After we fire off another load of arrows into his chest, Tar moves to even higher ground. Carrie and Talion chase after him, but Tar grabs Carrie's head and she suddenly realises, oh yeah, I'm made of wood and leaves, how have I been fighting a fire monster? And promptly dies. Tar then scurries off for a celebratory wank and a Kit Kat, but Carrie becomes a drake and flies after him. Talion acknowledges that Kelly was right. He should have probably knelt before her because she could snap him like a twig. Kelly says Carrie has witnessed Middle-earth devastation and revival many times over. She was here before any of us, and she will be here long after we have perished. So we'd best go give her some backup, since our potshots will surely be key to defeating Tar. We track him down, but he gets the drop on us and chases us through an ice cave. However, we slow him down by shooting icicles, because of course our potshots matter. We're the main character after all. Unfortunately, Tar remembers he can conjure fire whips and stops us mounting Carrie. So now we have to try to 1v1 him. Oh man, this isn't working out at all. Quick, what would Torvin do? What would Ellie do? Alright, rely on someone else's powers. After enough quick time events, we finally managed to convince Tar to take a bath and come back another century. Back at her forest cave, Carrie lets us know sending Tar to bed early won't be the end of this. We need to go kill Zog the Eternal since he's a necromancer. Seems like an obvious next step. With a necromancer on staff, Sauron would be unstoppable. We track down Zog, who says our undeath inspired him to make an undead orc army, which makes sense. We're awesome. But there's no explanation for how he got the power of necromancy. Not usually the case you can lift yourself up by your bootstraps into raising the dead, but whatever. We just need to purify his necromancer totems, something we can do because... It's not like we're pure hearted or anything. Guess spirit powers are being used as the Swiss Army knife for plot progression now. Then we mount Carrie in Grog form and go purify some more totems. Then we mount Carrie in Drake form to kill the undead and purify even more totems. This annoys them enough that some of them turn up at Carrie's forest to burn her trees like some kind of hate group. Maybe the orcs aren't so great either, especially since whilst they were here, they put up even more totems for us to purify. Having dealt with the forest fire, Carrie says Zog is planning to raise Targaroth from the ice, in a ritual that would give him control over it, making him an immensely powerful enemy we would struggle to hide from, let alone defeat. Also, Carrie is done. She can't be arsed stopping him after everything else. She's been around for thousands of years, but our bullshit has been enough for her to peace out. So we'll be on our own for now as we try to take down Zog, who's gone rogue, wanting to raise the Balrog and an undead army not for Sauron but for himself. I know he's our enemy, but all things considered, I like him. He's a real go-getter with upper management written all over him. Unfortunately, he did the unforgivable crime. He made more totems we have to purify, so we kill him. But death was merely a setback, and his acolytes raised both him and some undead from the casualties at Minas Morgul, and you'll never guess what kind of structure they put up as part of this ritual. But we finally put an end to Zog the Eternal. I assume. His title is Eternal, and he proved himself worthy of it since his cult brought him back, and I have no way of knowing I put an end to his cult. But that's the end of the questline, so suck it up and accept that that's that. Oh, and Carrie makes a final appearance at the end in her Drake form to set fire to everything in the Colosseum where they were raising the dead. Whilst I was still in it. Think she might still be mad at me. And so that storyline is wrapped up. Was it at all impactful on the main story? Nope. Was it a fun time farting around with a forest god? But the mandatory filler is over now, and we can get back to the main story, starting with finding Ellie fighting a Nazgul. We find out that some of the orcs are special. They're called the Chosen, and are made as part of a secret ritual. Their purpose is to protect the Hadir, which are fast travel towers we've been taking over from Sauron that the Witch King uses to track our ring because they expand the Palantir's reach, for some reason. These towers are non-canon, so Sauron built them at some point between whenever and I don't know. So we take over all the towers, which makes the Nazgul pissy and say we're wasting our time, which feels like meta-commentary on the game wasting our time with padding. We take out our frustration by killing all the chosen orcs, but Ellie says they won't stop unless we stop them at their source, which means gathering more intel at Minas Morgul. On the way, Mecha Hawk reappears and has a speech about how inevitable it was he'd be back. Okay. I feel this means more to him than me because I kinda stopped caring about him 0.1 seconds after bisecting him, and him returning via Technomancer is kinda cool, but we've also seen orcs coming back via Necromancer. It was a one-time thing, Hawk. Let it go. This time he doesn't even get the courtesy of me killing him. One of my summoned bodyguards does it, which he's a little too pleased about, but hey, always important to keep morale up.
Oh, that felt so good!
We wander into the city, and for some reason mind-controlling / killing as many orcs as we can didn't go unnoticed, and a Nazgul appears to once again remind us that we're destined to join them. Their relentless passion for expanding Sauron's power is matched only by their relentless passion for spoiling the end of the story. Nazgul seem to follow ninja rules, where the fewer there are on screen, the harder they are to beat. Talion 1v5'd them earlier, but now he's struggling with one, and can only manage to do so thanks to Ellie's bubble shield. Once he's weakened, we banish him, but first, we take a peek at his MP4 files, and find a new cutscene showing Suladan successfully besieging Sauron's fortress, but Sauron offering a ring of power, to which Suladan went, "Oh, of course I'll accept your gift. What could go wrong?" Whoa. Ah, damn. What a shame. Ellie says this is the inevitable result of those who are arrogant enough to think they can control a ring of power. Kelly once again insists his ring is different and won't subjugate the wearer because it's pure. Ellie says,
"Pure what, I wonder?"
Hint hint, Talion, still time to abandon ship. And cut. Okay, so the rest of Ellie's side quest only really makes sense with some context from the other non-filler storyline, so we'll get back to this after taking control of some forts. Kelly says to take on Sauron, we'll first need to take control of his forts across Mordor, and for that we'll need commanders, orcs who can do more than simply follow orders but lead other orcs. First up we find Bruz ripping off an orc's head, which Kelly finds endearing, so he's our first recruit.
Suffer me now!
We're the good guys.
Right lord, dark lord. Same thing really.
Bruz is a right proper lad, a straight shooter with upper management written all over him. Recruiting him turns his armour blue, so we know he's a good guy now. He lets us know the nearby fortress is ruled by a two-headed orc, so if we want to get word out about our orc recruitment scheme, best to have a show of force by taking over that one first. We'll keep that in mind as we bolster our ranks. Hey look, it's Arbenu the Suspicious again. Ah, just like the good old days in the Colosseum. Remember that, Harry? No? How dare you? We then recruit Rash Flesh Lover? But then he dies whilst we're recruiting other orcs. But then he returns. But now he's angry at us for letting him die. So we try to re-recruit him, but he's not having it, so we shame him. Man, why is this proving so hard? All I'm trying to do is build an autonomous murder brigade. In the process of failing to recruit Rash, we found a more powerful ring, apparently. Brand new, fresh off the forge of Mount Doom ring of power, sure, that's all well and good, but this ring pays tribute to the moon. You know how powerful the moon is? Defo swapping for this. Next, we try to recruit Gluck Throat Slasher, but he's too high level, so we shame him for now. Then he comes back as Gluck the Unashamed. Apparently sometimes you shame them and they turn around and decide actually they're not ashamed and they were right all along, otherwise known as the Liz Truss approach to mental health. He decided that the mark upon his face is a badge of honour and embraces it. Honestly, good for him. It takes great discipline and resolve to overcome your failures and rise further from them. That's the exact kind of thing I'm looking for in my army. Welcome aboard. First task, go kill Arbenu. He became deranged when we shamed him, so he's useless to us. After that, we recruit Tugog the Strangler. Any day now, Talion. You're recruiting known stranglers and sending your mind slaves on assassination missions. Kelly is quite open about his evil intentions. There's only so long you can think, no, it's fine, I'm just using a ring of power and the help of a mysterious manipulator to take control of Mordor for the good of all. We recruit 2 more captains and gather our troops to siege the fortress of Nirn. It's pretty quick work when we've got Bruz double decapitating a 2-headed captain and ripping the arms off others. He loves this fort capturing business and isn't afraid to get stuck in, really thrives in a fast-paced environment, is always willing to go the extra mile. He asks to become Overlord when we take it, and why would I deny him? He's been my star player the whole way and my right-hand orc. Gotta take the fort first, of course. We make it to the throne room of the Overlord, and Talion screams that this fort is his now, in the name of the Bright Lord. One of Master Blaster's heads then decapitates itself to reveal it is in fact Ratbag! He survived being killed by the hammer, because the hammer was a little bitch and didn't chop his head off. Then he got captured by slavers, helped a big orc escape, and became best friends with him. Named him Ranger after us, and then Ranger killed the previous Overlord to take the fort. I'd say he's upper management material, but he already seems to have failed his way into it. Not for much longer though, as Bruz makes sure to inform them that the fort belongs to the Bright Lord now. Ratbag mocks the name Bright Lord and says they're welcome to it, because the bureaucracy involved with running a fort really takes the fun out of all the killings. Bruz says good, because he's Overlord now, but Ratbag says anyone but him. And Ranger agrees, but Bruz says he ain't working for these two. Talion starts to regret everything and fakes a headache to walk away, but Kelly reassures him not to worry about it and just choose the next Overlord with care. Before that, they make a big speech to their army about how they've taken this fort, and then they're going to take the next fort, and the next, then kill Sauron, yeah! Then plants a spirit flag to show he's serious. Anyway, Time to promote Bruz to Overlord. Ah, I'm not allowed to. Guess keeping the peace with Ratbag and Ranger means not rewarding Bruz for his hard work. Ah well, he'll understand. He can be Overlord of the next fort. We'll just make Tugog the Strangler Overlord for now, which will certainly send a message to our enemies. Bet Sauron's quaking in his jammies. Ratbag lets us know now that we have the fort, it'll come under attack, like how we attacked it, so we best go train up our orcs. We meet up with Bruz at the fighting pit to see how the training's going. He lets us know it's a win-win for us. Either our orc wins and gets stronger, or an outsider does and we can just recruit them. And either way, it's a show that keeps morale up. And we've already seen how much the orcs love that shit, so we'll keep that in mind whilst we start recruiting for the next siege. We start with an orc named Tars Rat Hunter, but shame him because Rat Hunter? Come on mate, aim higher. But he reappears a couple minutes later. You know what? I've got a good feeling about this guy. He might have only hunted rats, but he came back to take me on despite shaming him. He's worth a shot. Not upper management material, but you don't get senior leaders without taking on some juniors. I considered recruiting Ugol the Seer, but decided against it when we chop off his arm and head. Can't be much of a seer if he didn't see that coming and, oh my, looking a bit different there, Talion. You sure you're okay? Not feeling corrupted by the ring at all? Not turning into a bit of a Nazgul yet? Not succumbing to the inevitable tragic end your story is destined to have, are you? We round out our forces with 4 more commanders and start siege number 2, the assault on Seragost's fortress. The Overlord is Krosh the Reckless, and I naively fail to pay any attention to his level, which is 10 levels higher than mine. He also says he's not scared of me because Ratbag was pathetic, and I naively forget that I didn't actually have to fight him to take that fortress, so don't know what's in store for me if I fight this guy. But it's fine. I can do stuff like take control of their Graugs and turn them against them. What could go wrong? During the siege, we take the opportunity to recruit some of the defending orcs like Shaglord of the Maggots. Ugh. Clearly a name only an American could love. With that unpleasantness out of the way, Talion enters the throne room and... Uh-oh. I did not know I had to fight the Overlord by myself, and that he would have a bunch of orcs with him, including a captain. Uh-oh. And that even if you endlessly dodge and kill and mind control the extra orcs, it just spawns in more. Uh-oh. These are absolutely impossible odds. Way in over my head. First siege outside of the tutorial one, and I'm facing an Overlord 10 levels higher than me. I've barely put a dent in his health before I'm in a last stand. It's over, easily. But wait. Krosh. Sounds like the beginning of croissant if you pronounce it wrong. Croissants come from France. Paris is in France. Paris has a large rat population, and who do I know that hunts rats? A level 18 follower one-shots the level 35 Overlord. Does that make sense? No. Does making him Overlord make sense? No. Am I doing it anyway? Absolutely. Because Tars Rat Hunter is truly a real go-getter with upper management written all over him. Forget about Bruz. This is the kind of guy that deserves to be Overlord. What a high. Let's ramp up the recruitment drive and get to the next siege. We've got momentum on our side and quickly kill a bunch of captains and scoop up a bunch of new prospects. But one of our new recruits, Nazu Stoneskin, betrays me, so I have to kill him. Didn't know it was possible for the orcs to break free of my control like that. Maybe having so many under my control weakens my grip on some of them. I'll have to keep my eye out for that whilst I start siege number 3 against Cirith Ungol's fort. We got this. It'll be easy. And it is. We're breezing our way to Sauron. We make Tars the Gab Overlord. Don't even remember recruiting him, but he's the highest level guy I have, so whatever. Can't get bogged down too hard in decision making when I've got other forts to take. And defend, apparently. The first fort we took is under attack, but thankfully we have Tugog the Strangler holding the fort, with Bruz and Ratbag by his side, so they've been able to hold out until I arrive and clean house. Alongside a bunch of regular orcs, the fort was attacked by 6 named orcs, which meant 6 new recruits for my army. A pitiful attempt really. This has only made me stronger. Did they really think I would be so foolish as to let my guard down, to keep my eye off the ball? I've already had an orc turn against me. I'm more than aware that I need to stay alert. Hey wait, didn't my grip on Nazu Stoneskin's mind slip because I recruited too many orcs and spread my power too thin, and I just recruited 6 more— Oh no! Bruz! Backstabbing your way to the top? That's so upper management of you. What the hell, you should have displayed this kind of moxie earlier. Having lost the fort to Bruz, we return to our comedy duo ways with Ratbag to take it back. He points out that the other orcs know we had Bruz under the control of our and so are lining up to join him, which we need to put a stop to ASAP. He also took the orcs we had in positions of power hostage, which was good thinking to bait us into attacking him, but not so good thinking because of course we were going to attack him, and this only made us angrier. Having rescued the hostages, Ratbag reminds us he had an escape tunnel in the fort, and we figure out we can use that to sneak back in. When we do this and come face to face with Bruz, who now has red armour so you know he's a bad guy, he mocks us by saying, "What, you figured you'd just rescue your orcs, come back here and take the fort?" Which is exactly what we do, though Bruz uses the same disappearing magic as Zog the Necromancer to escape. So is that something all high-level orcs can do? It kinda made sense for Zog since he's into the dark arts, so figures he'd stumble on something like that. Why don't any other orcs do this? Alright, for plot reasons. Having retaken the fort, Kellyon gives a very fashy, very Sauron, very cringy speech, talking about no weakness, no mercy, only the unassailable strength of his army. We also put Turog the Strangler back as Overlord. We're the good guys. Having resecured the fort, Ratbag tells us he needs our help because Ranger has been taken. Talion is fairly unbothered by this news, but Ratbag says he has to help because otherwise it'll lower morale amongst the rank and file, and in a rare turn of events, Kelly agrees with Ratbag. We need to project strength if we're going to establish a fascist dictatorship. To bring peace and stability to Mordor, but we can't maintain power with our strongman persona if we allow our orcs to be taken. And it's worth it because Ranger was taken by Bruz and his followers, who we intend to fuck up anyway. Ratbag actually shows a lot of bravery by standing up to Bruz, but Bruz says this is between him and the Gravewalker, so we say, okay, come down here and we'll kill you. To which Bruz says, oh hang on, I have an important call I need to make, I'll get back to you, and leaves us to be ambushed by some of his lackeys. A couple dead lackeys later, we reassure Ratbag that we'll track down and rescue Ranger, and that Bruz will get what's coming to him. Kelly points out that Bruz is only the first. The more power we gain, the more challenges we'll face. But if we make an example of Bruz, if we break him, it will have a chilling effect on those who would dare rise against us. Talion says we're here to win a war, not play politics. Talion, sweetheart, we're gathering our forces to perform a military coup against an established power and install our own regime. We're currently tracking down an opposition leader to quash a rebellion before it starts. I know this is medieval fantasy, and you have the critical thinking skills and historical reference points expected of a peasant who can swing a sword good. But who told you war is unpolitical? Ratbag tracked down some of our captured followers who we need to rescue before they die of poison that Bruz gave them. Whilst doing this, one of Bruz's followers says Bruz was undefeated before us and that we took that away from him. Not sure I follow the logic of looking up to a guy who doesn't lose, but then getting angry at the guy who beat him, rather than thinking they're now someone worthy of looking up to. So we do the rational thing and decapitate the Bruz simp. Talion is getting bored by this wild goose chase Bruz is sending us on, and is coming around to Kelly's thinking of breaking his mind. Ratbag has tracked down Bruz to his final hiding place where Ranger is being held. We know it's a trap that Bruz wants us to fall into, but it will send an even greater message if we willingly enter the obvious trap and still break Bruz's mind. So we enter the cave to fall for the obvious trap, to which Bruz says, "Aha, you fell for my obvious trap. Try and get out alive, you fool." And so we do, at which point Bruz is gone. But not to worry, Ratbag saw him and will track him down again. Ratbag has tracked him down to his final hiding place where Ranger is being held. We sneak in and rescue Ranger, then mount Bruz and ride him into explosive barrels to weaken him so that we can take back control of him. But that's not enough, so we shame him. But that's not enough, so we make him deranged, a cowering, snivelling fool who fears us beyond comprehension, a spirit so broken he can never heal. Ratbag reunites with Ranger, who's actually happy to see him. A wholesome ending that's cut short when Ratbag sees what we did to Bruz. He wanted Bruz to get what he deserved, but thinks this is far more than he deserved. He's creeped out, Ranger calls us cruel, and they both leave. The very ones we detest for their cruelty and violence are freaked out by our cruelty and violence. We are beyond redemption, yet never even think twice about it because of course, we're the good guys. We're just having to do some evil to achieve greatness. You see, the ends justify the means, alright? Everyone knows that. It's in every ethics textbook. Probably. I can't read. And with that, we can return to Ellie's storyline before the final sieges, because she's found out some of my orcs have been taken for a ritual, including Bruz. How dare they capture my favourite trauma pet? But getting them back is simple enough. A couple stabbings, mind thrashings and banishings later, we disrupt the ritual and make it so the Nazgul can no longer track us. But they still know we'll show up to defend our forts, so Helm Hammerhand shows up to try and flush us out and join his ranks. However, he made two fatal flaws. He didn't bring his other Nazgul mates, just a bunch of no-name orcs and drakes, and he decided to attack the fort held by Tar's Rat Hunter. They never stood a chance. Oh no. He can resist Talion because he's not a true Dom yet. Ellie has to jump in and save us. Yet we expect to take on Sauron. After fending him off, Ellie tracks Helm Hammerhead to the snowy peaks of the snowy mountains of Seregost and gets a little sassy with us, pointing out she's making a habit of saving us and hopes we can keep up as she hunts the Nazgul. Talion asks how she can keep fighting when she's never able to defeat the Nazgul. She says,
In the war against darkness, sometimes stalemate is victory.
And other times it's beating up drakes to bait out Nazgul. Talion asks Ellie what happens to the Nazgul when they're defeated, to which she says their spirit endures, returning to Sauron's stronghold to recover until they can take physical form again. Talion realises this means they are banished from death, like him. Maybe being possessed by the evil wraith has sent him down the wrong path in death. Might need to look at making a pivot at some point. In the meantime, we beat up some more drakes and banish Hammerhead, but not before he gives us a vision. Talion sees that Kelly and Sauron gave a king a ring of power to help him get his daughter back. He accidentally killed his daughter in the process, driving him mad and leading to him becoming a Nazgul. Talion starts to fully realise that Kelly, the evil wraith who crafted the rings of power that corrupted all who wore them, might not be a good guy. Especially when after Talion confronts him about it, Kelly still claims the rings were meant to bring order, but our new ring is different because it's untainted. Plus we're not dominating noble men, but savage orcs, therefore it will be less chaotic and more ordered because of the savageness of the orcs? This logic is so stupid that Talion and Ellie both walk away from him. About time they caught on to this. Well, Ellie knew from the start. But nice to see Talion catch up to where we've all been since we looked at the wraith and went, oh, that's a wraith, that's not good, don't hang out with him. Ellie tracks another Nazgul to some haunted ruins. This one is Isildur, the king who cut the one ring from Sauron's hand and wore it on his own. Ellie reminds Kelly this is the legacy of his rings, which makes him embarrassed, so he fades away. Isildur then spawns some spirit warriors who died at Minas Ithil to try and fuck with us and says, haha, these were your friends, now they're my slaves, also join our club already, we're cool, before flying away. Ellie spawns a bubble shield, but it cannot protect against emotional damage, like having to fight Idril's dad, Castamir. Oh no, what a shame we have to fight the betrayer. Oh well, nothing we can do about it. We beat him up and banish him so Ellie can go track down more of the Nazgul. Although I don't know why it ends like that, because that's that storyline done until we take on Sauron, a thing we can totally do. Back to sieging forts. We actually only need to conquer 4 of the available fortresses. There's a 5th one, Shindram, in a place called Lithlad I was taking a bath, that's optional and was introduced as part of the DLC. We want to conquer Mordor, but this is outside of Mordor. The only reason to take it would be for pure power mongering.
Syndrome is ours!
In preparation for the 5th and final siege, we recruit Luger the Wanderer, who then gets killed by Kruk the Jaded, so we recruit him, and then Luger comes back from the dead to fight for us. Neat! We also pick up Doug's Eagle Eye and Tugog the Messenger and start the siege of the fort in Gorgoroth. It's currently controlled by Ogbur Skin Chewer. Lovely. Highlights of the siege include Gura the Unclean wasting my time by defying death and hanging around for a minute before Tugog the Messenger delivers his face into the dirt where his title shows he belongs. And Doug's Eagle Eye betrays the orcs to join my side despite already being on my side, and he does so by taking a stab at... oh hey, it's the tower! Still alive despite me killing him in the last game. I can relate. Guess you serve me now. Man, this is great. We've got Bruz by our side and we're taking down a fort just like the good old days, right Bruz? Good times. After 2 last stands, a comical amount of spirit arrows and some good old poison, we easily kill the Overlord and take the final fort. We make the tower the new Overlord for old time's sake, but he's shy so didn't appear in the promotion screen. Off to beat Sauron. a thing we can totally do. I haven't read the books because I can't read, so no spoilers, but I think we got this. Also, Ellie's here too, since this might be her chance to finally kill the Nazgul. We have our good orc army fighting under me, the Bright Lord, ready to take on the evil orc army fighting under the Dark Lord. We fight our way across the bridge to Sauron's tower and come across our true nemesis, Ronk Blackblade. Forgot all about him, what with all the other orc murder we had to do. Just another orc to add to my collection now. Getting to the end of the bridge, we meet Isildur the Nazgul once again. Like the others, he still can't overcome Ellie's bubble shield, so we make short work of him and get another vision before we banish him. We see how he was about to lose to Sauron until he cut his finger off to get the One Ring. Can't believe no one else thought to just do that. Sauron really deserves to lose the One Ring again if he's that careless. We see Isildur decide to wear the ring, who proceeded to be corrupted by it because of course. These guys never learn. He died trying to keep it because he slipped on a banana peel or something, and then the ring also slipped on a banana peel and fell off his hand, so he jumped off a cliff to get it and drowned. What an absolute clown. But he was brought back by Sauron because hey, no hard feelings. What a nice guy. He even gave him a ring of power and potentially immortality. Back in the present, Isildur drops the ring Sauron gave him, and Kelly decides he wants to turn him to our side because he's jealous, but Talion wouldn't allow it and released him from undeath. Kelly says he wasn't his to release. Talion says he wasn't his to enslave. Ellie chimes in with an observation that unlike before, Kelly was able to break Sauron's hold and dominate the Nazgul, to which Kelly says yes, he's the real Dom here, and he will dominate Sauron and take his armies for his own. Talion says we're meant to destroy Sauron, but Kelly says Sauron can't be destroyed, he should be controlled. Talion looks at Ellie like, can you believe this guy? And she says yes, that they keep fighting evil but it always returns, and that they can end this here. Kelly subtly moves over to stand next to Ellie and says we must ensure Mordor is restored to light, not darkness. Talion says this is not what he fought for, and he will not trade one Dark Lord for another. It took far too long, in fact more or less until the last moment he could, but finally Talion has realised that Kelly is not fighting to free Mordor, he's fighting to control it. Kelly says this isn't about his own petty vengeance or Talion's, it's about restoring order to Mordor and all of Middle-earth. Ellie agrees, and Kelly agrees with Ellie, and he says some clearly manipulative bullshit about how together they can do what their people have been fighting for so long, and offers her the new Ring of Power because she's the one who can beat Sauron. And she takes the ring? What? Okay, time out. Just allow me to break this narration for a bit to ask what the actual fuck is going on here. There's been no foreshadowing of this. Ellie has been a consistent hater of Kelly from the jump, and has only shown greater hate towards him as the story went on. She watched Talion grapple with the consequences of wearing the ring and being possessed by Kelly, yet trusted him enough to be at his side as they march on Sauron, and now what? She saw Kelly dom a Nazgul and thought, oh shit, that's so fucking hot, I need to get in on this action. Come on. She knows the betrayals Kelly has already committed and is willing to do again. He's betraying Talion for her right now. She knows the corruption the temptation of the ring causes. But she's different, right? She wouldn't get corrupted by its vast, tempting power. We went on a whole side story with her, where there could have been plenty of foreshadowing and character development to show her views being challenged, perhaps being corrupted herself in the presence of a ring bearer. Seeing that would have actually been quite interesting and made this a satisfying twist. But no, she stuck to her ideals throughout, made a habit of saving Talion, only to betray him at the last moment. Am I missing something? I must be. If I rewatch the extended cut of the movie trilogy 10 times in one sitting, does it unlock a bonus scene that shows how this makes any kind of sense? If someone knows something I don't, please leave a comment, because as it stands, this is so bad I have to believe I'm just wrong about it. Until then, Talion gets taken off life support, and we're left to watch him die, just as he was becoming an interesting character. Ellie reassures him his sacrifice is not in vain. Fuck you, this is murder, not sacrifice. While Kelly says nothing, which is fine, because I don't want to hear from that cheating whore. But this is what Talion gets for making the ring in the first place. In his final moments, he can reflect on how foolish he's been. He knew that Sauron enticed people into doing his bidding. He saw visions of Kelly with Sauron giving these rings to them. He saw those ring bearers fall to darkness, and he personally met someone who was betrayed by Sauron despite being by his side. And yet he made a new ring. He wore the new ring. He was betrayed by those he controlled, but never thought he could be betrayed by the Bright Lord. But it's just like Bruz said.
Bright Lord, Dark Lord, same thing really.
Yet luck finds him once again when Shelley re-emerges. She psychically cradles Talion as he dies, but he finally rejects her. He cannot forgive her for showing him a fate he could not change. But she says he's wrong. She saw the future. He and Kelly were going to win, enslave Sauron, and the Bright Lord would take over Mordor and all of Middle-earth. So she set in motion the means to change it, which happened when Talion saw Kelly for who he truly was. But his fight isn't over. He has to return to Minas Morgul and hold Sauron back. Talion scoffs, but she reminds him that he said he was willing to sacrifice everything. So wake up, take Isildur's ring, and become the Dom you were always meant to be.
As long as I have breath in my body, my fate is my own.
And so, Talion once again avoids having to see his wife and kid, and now he leads a spirit army. Neat. We return to Minas Morgul and have a rematch with the Nazgul and Witch King. With our renewed vigour, we banish them all and take the city back to hold it not in the name of any lord, bright or dark, but in the name of hope. This means we can finally fulfil the objective Shelley gave us towards the start, to control and protect the Palantir. Nah, fuck you, Kelly, you were so obsessed with it, but now we get to use it instead to spy on him and Ellie's fight with Sauron. They fight Sauron in an actually substantial non-quick-time event final battle. Nice to see they learnt from the first game, and to prove he's serious, Sauron switches out of his pyjamas and into his ass-kicking clothes. But then he decides he liked his jammies more, but then he starts losing, so he puts the armour back on. Then, to show he's really serious, he puts his gym jams back on, but sets himself on fire. And it's a good job he did, because he almost gets dommed until he remembers a trick from the past and pulls the old finger slicing move. This gives Sauron the opportunity to take the title of Ultimate Dom and vor Kelly. Then he's too busy basking in the afterglow to finish off Ellie. Typical. And so, with Ellie still alive wearing the new ring, Talion wearing a borrowed ring, and Kelly/Sauron trapped in a fight for who will be top or bottom, we end the story perfectly set up for a sequel. Oh, what? It keeps going? My mistake, I guess we still have more to show. We get a little epilogue section where Talion resolves himself to keeping Mordor in a state of perpetual war, which will keep the Dark Lord's forces from overwhelming Mordor long enough for the free people of Middle-earth to prepare for the War of the Ring. I mean, it's a bit flimsy, but I've heard worse excuses to justify an endgame you can just keep playing. Plus, with Kelly trapped in a twosome with Sauron, we get to keep control of the forts, although they are under siege since we lost a lot of our grip on them, which is to be expected when you almost die. On top of that, our new ring and spirit powers mean we can raise the dead. Get fucked, Zog. And so we go about recruiting and losing orcs, capturing and losing forts, and getting telepathic reassurance from Shelley that no man has held back the shadow as long as him, and as long as he endures, hope remains. It takes its toll, but he endures. Talion acknowledges he's now a Nazgul, but at least he's not a simp anymore. He's the Nazgul of Minas Morgul, and he will not let go. He knows he's not the good guy at this point. I mean, with that helmet he's an anti-hero at best, but he never betrays anyone and sticks to his goal. He held back the Dark Forces for decades, but the Dark Lord's ring had a will of its own, so eventually he succumbed to the darkness, and the Witch King came to take him. But even he recognises Talion's resolve. He approaches Talion after decades when he knows his time is up, and gently guides him to his final destiny, to become one of the 9 Nazgul. But he could be proud, for he had held out longer than anyone could have expected, and kept Sauron's forces at bay, using the power of one of the rings against him. And as one of his former allies said, sometimes when fighting against evil, a stalemate is victory. And so the rest of the story plays out as you may be familiar. The One Ring is found, it is pursued, and it is finally destroyed in the fires of Mount Doom. And when Sauron was eventually defeated, Talion died too, by being hit by a massive magma rock whilst riding a dragon. A pretty cool way to go out, so good for him. And finally, he died his final death. Crossing over to the afterlife, he finally gets the peace he wanted, reunited with his wife and child. Presumably. I mean, we don't get to see that part, but let's not ruin a good thing and say he saw them once he got past that mist. He just took his time getting to the mist. Pretty good ending, all things considered. Not a bad story overall. Had some satisfying twists, a couple pacing issues, but we got there in the end. It takes away some of the sequel hook now that we've already seen what happens to Talion, but I'm sure they can do something with Ellie in a potential sequel. Alright now, because we've got some DLC to cover that keeps the story going just a little further. There's 2 DLC stories. The first is just Barry returning to his homeland to team up with his brother and Torvin, hell yeah, and using a variety of repurposed gadgets to take control of a fortress and flex on how he did it without spirit powers. He used mercenaries rather than orcs, which makes sense. Something tells me using enslavement powers on these guys would have made it a bit too clear how evil it is, and then the fort is destroyed by a massive worm. The end. Pretty fun time, but not much to it. 7 out of 10, didn't have enough Torvin. Moving on to the other DLC. So, quick warning here, if you've not played the Blade of Galadriel DLC, there's a good chance you're gonna hate what happens in it, and if you have played it, well, you know what you're getting yourself in for, so don't blame me when it reignites your anger. Ready? Okay. So, remember Talion's bittersweet ending from a minute ago, where he holds out for decades against the corrupting influence of Isildur's ring, making the ultimate sacrifice to ensure Sauron would eventually be defeated? Well, scrap that, we're doing retcons, baby! We pick up where the main game left Ellie, having lost 2 fingers and her new ghost friend. Galadriel turns up to tell her she done goofed, and that now she has to go kill Talion because otherwise he'll be an issue. Plus, he's turning into a Nazgul, and her job was to defeat the Nazgul, not Sauron. Taking the ring to try and beat Sauron was not part of her mission, mainly because that's stupid due to the fact she would obviously lose, as she did, and in the process created another Nazgul. Talion might have been able to beat Sauron with Kelly's power, but now he's on his own, had to take on Isildur's ring, which is going to make him a Nazgul, and Kelly is eternally fighting to suck off Sauron. Ellie starts to protest, but Galadriel says, "Did I fucking stutter? You fucked up, and you'll have to live with the guilt of that betrayal for eternity, but you can clean up your mess before it gets worse." So we're playing as Ellie. We break into Talion's place and see him looking corrupted and staring into the Palantir, and decide we've seen enough, he belongs to the Dark Lord now. Talion politely but firmly disagrees, says, "I am not the Dark Lord's puppet yet and would appreciate if you didn't kill me." They hash it out with some slicing and dicing until Talion gets the upper hand and proves he's not evil by sparing her. Then he tells her she's wrong, as all women are, and that she should join his efforts instead of trying to kill him like Galadriel told her to, since she is also a woman, and therefore also wrong. He's clearly slipping into the darkness, what with his newfound sexism, but he has a point. Shelley, the one good woman, saw the future and changed it so things would work out like this, and now he and Ellie are the counterbalance to prevent Sauron's rise. Ellie agrees to help him for now, and together they investigate some mysterious attacks that have been happening against the forts. We check in on our defences and learn that we have a significant reduction in our personnel due to in-house conflicts resulting in our orcs killing each other. But our HR manager says he knows a couple unique orcs we could add to our ranks to get back to where we were. So Talion goes to leave to check on the other forts and let Ellie recruit the orcs since she's now wearing the new ring. Ellie quite adamantly refuses to dom the orcs, but says she'll bring them back. Somehow. Interesting place to draw the line. Killing orcs? Of course. Let Talion die? Well, it's for the greater good, so we gotta have some moral flexibility to get things done. Wear a ring of power? It's only evil if I let it be evil, and I'm different, so I just won't let it be evil. But taking control of the orcs? Never. You can't just take away someone's free will like that. Even though she teamed up with Kelly and left Talion to die for the explicit purpose of having Kelly control Sauron and by extension the orcs. She still wears the ring though, for safekeeping I assume, and because it gives her replacement fingers made of light. Somehow. So rather than controlling the orcs, Ellie just happens upon friendly orcs that want to help her. Every quest to recruit orcs has you walking up to them and them asking you for help when they have every reason to think you're there to kill them and they should want to kill you too. There were a couple smatterings of these kinds of orcs in the main game. As far as I know, we never dommed Ratbag. He just recognised it was the smart play to team up with us. But these were interesting exceptions, whereas most orcs had to be controlled. Now Ellie is filling an entire army with friendly orcs, and they undercut the seriousness of the story too. Don't get me wrong, the main games had comedic relief to lighten the mood, but the mood needed to be lightened because we were pursuing vengeance in a violent and tortuous crusade full of at best morally grey choices leading us down a path of evil. The occasional cut to a circus show stops it from getting too down, you know? But there's a limit, and I didn't know what that limit was, but I'm pretty sure it's Leonardo da Vinci. Our first recruit, Archaeus the Architect, is an orc who's very passionate about stonemasonry. Galadriel says if we save enough of his workers, we'll gain his favour. Suddenly the orcs aren't psychotic killers and torturers, but can in fact be reasoned with and appreciate a quid pro quo. If that's the case, why haven't we been doing that from the start? Have we been mindlessly killing these orcs that were fully capable of being reasoned with? Are the orcs actually cool as fuck and maybe we were the bad guys the whole time? Yes. There's no joke here, I'm just stating facts. After that we meet a sniper orc called Og, Bow of Morgoth, who is conveniently racist towards other orcs, is willing to hear us out, and immediately suggests we team up. We kill some drakes with him, which is enough to get him fully on our side, because we have pretty privilege now. Next we team up with Arbaruk the Thrall, a servant of Shelob even after her death. He immediately offers to help us, which at least makes sense since Shelley pre-mind controlled him, and she was working against Sauron. Unfortunately, Bork Webbreaker and Shaka Spiderhawk turn up and, well, their names are appropriate. He's not needed to help us withstand the upcoming siege though, which goes by very easily and uneventfully, almost like they didn't put much thought and effort into this DLC. Having successfully kept the fort, Talion drops in, literally, to tell us one of the other forts, Saragost, has been lost, and the two responsible for it appear, a pair of rogue Nazgul. They say the Witch King's power has weakened after Talion banished him, and the Dark Lord is busy with his close personal friend who history will say was his roommate, so they're ascending to power whilst the chance is available and will eventually take the rings worn by Talion and Ellie. So now even the Nazgul can break free of Sauron's control? Isn't their whole deal that they're the result of becoming fully and irreversibly under Sauron's control, and is the reason Talion becoming one was a big deal we were hoping to prevent? Oh god, this is so non-canon that now I'm becoming the actually guy about Lord of the Rings, a series of books I have not read because I cannot read. What is happening? Talion says they don't have the resources to keep Saragost, but Ellie says just burn it to the ground. On our way to commit arson, we meet Maku the Fixer, who's a friendly orc that offers to find potential recruits for us. Where was he during the main game? One of the leads Maku gives us is a pair of orcs called Flint and Tinder, who are obsessed with explosives and don't care if it's the Dark Lord or us providing them, so long as they get to blow stuff up. Having helped them break a grog by blowing up grog barrels, we recruit Rock and Dating App. Blowing up grog barrels and a tip-off by Maku gives us an idea on what to do about the lost fort. Terrorism. Biological terrorism to be precise. We'll simply poison the entire fort so no one can have it. With Sniper, Flint and Tinder providing covering fire, we poison barrels of grog from a distance, somehow, with a particularly potent poison that spreads through the air to render the place uninhabitable. We're the good guys. Though Galadriel reminds us that just because we weaken Sauron's army, that doesn't mean we needn't worry about Talion's and that we'll still have to kill him. You may be thinking to yourself, hang on, a fort is gone for good and we're talking about killing Talion. That doesn't work with the ending of the main game. And you'd be right. Retcons, baby. Get ready, because it's gonna get worse. We make our way to Nurnen to defend the fort there and find a nice guy orc, Crimp the Enchanted Simp. He renounced the Dark Lord because you were just too beautiful. Okay, Maku the Fixer has a score to settle with the Overlord here, and he knows a secret entrance to his throne room, so we can skip the fun of an actual siege and sneakily make our way.
What a pathetic wall! I could build one that is 10 times greater in half the time!
We can sneakily make our way through. He can do that, I suppose. On the way, we sabotage some fire traps, poison the grog, and seal the gate to make sure no one can escape the massacre that's about to unfold. But mind control is evil. Maku gets to the throne room first and reveals he's salty that he didn't get thanks for helping take the fortress, so that's why he's helping us take it back. Fair enough. Labour should be recognised and fairly compensated. Workers of the world unite. So we kill the Overlord, and Maku decides actually he was only in it for the spiteful revenge, so he's going to find someone else to hate now, and leaves the fort to us. Respect. He knows what he's about. We have a chance to recruit one more orc before taking back the final fort. Golm the Digger, who wants the world to be as beautiful as the underground. Unfortunately, the architect thinks otherwise, and he's awesome, so we're siding with him. We raid the fort at Gorgoroth that the Nazgul took as part of their quest to take over Mordor, who say we face the army they've assembled to dominate all of Middle-earth. We disassemble it within minutes. Also, Flint suicides himself rather than make me choose him or the fort. Or, you know, just shooting the guy in the head. But he went out how he lived. Being cool as fuck. Tinder is devastated. Another reminder that the orcs have actual personalities, and we should play as one of them instead, rather than the unsalted crisp and mayonnaise man. Banishing the Nazgul lets us see a new cutscene. Turns out the Nazgul are Asian sisters. They took down a pair of Nazgul, somehow, wore their rings, and then betrayed their father, the Emperor, after he asked for the rings. That was just coincidence though. They didn't kill him because of the rings, but because they're women. Never trust them. Also, this is very stereotypically ancient China. Undeniably so. I know this is non-canon, but... what? Sauron even shows up to take them away in a traditional Chinese suit rather than his pyjamas. Whatever, I'm done caring. But just to be clear, China does exist in Middle-earth. Kinda. See, in Henry Resnick's March 2nd, 1966 interview with Tolkien, he is quoted as saying, "Run is the Elvish word for East, Asia, China, Japan, and all the things which people in the West regard as far away." So yeah, that's why this makes sense. So long as you don't think about any of the other implications. Don't think about them. Stop it. With the forts defended and the Nazgul banished, Talion is going to die his final death, but doesn't want to die here. Doesn't he die much later in the story? Shut up, we're doing retcons. Galadriel says to take the ring, but Ellie has finally learned not to listen to women, so helps Talion back to Minas Morgul, which has cleaned up quite nicely, I must say. Ellie asks Talion for the ring now that they're back in Minas Morgul, but he's having second thoughts. She tells him not to betray the man he once was, but he throws it back at her, since she betrayed him. Now I'm not saying it was inevitable that Talion would refuse to give the ring, but of course, he's worn the ring so long that Talion is no more. In this timeline anyway. Wore it for decades in the main story timeline, but whatever. And so we have one final scrap for old time's sake, but Talion eventually falls. Ellie stabs him and says she hopes he finds freedom in death. But he says he is banished from death and bound to the Binding Eye. Then his body gets whisked away to become a Nazgul. Ugh. Galadriel says her work here is done and she should go to the west. But Ellie isn't listening to her anymore. She continued to fight the forces of darkness for many years. And so we more or less completely wrap up Talion's storyline. Again, but this time leaving no room for an appearance by him in a sequel just as he was getting interesting and had a bit of personality. We see Sauron die and Kelly gets spat out, which does leave room for a sequel where Ellie tracks down Kelly and makes sure he fucks off for good this time. Maybe they'll give her more personality next time? Maybe they'll bring Talion back as a wraith to follow Ellie about. Even better, just pretend this DLC didn't happen. Retcon the retcon. Just have a do-over. Make a sequel focusing on Ellie, but she uses the ring to dom orcs in the name of Galadriel. Have her be self-aware that she's being corrupted by it, but she wants her mission to destroy the Nazgul to finally be over, so she's willing to do what she accused Talion of doing and allow the ring to control her. It took 1 and a bit games for Talion to have more personality than unbuttered toast. Maybe her own game will give us an Ellie that's more interesting than unseasoned potatoes. Or maybe they'll stop teasing and let us play as an orc and we can rise up against the plain white rice protagonists. Who knows? But one thing's for sure, this DLC was a mistake. Long live the original ending. Look, he reaches the mist and a flower grows next to his dropped sword. Ah, let's leave it there.